Kia ora, welcome to the very first ever Good Books Talk. I am Jane Arthur and I'm joined by Catherine Robertson. We're the co-owners of Good Books, the bookshop. This is the first of what is going to be an irregular series of talk about book-related things. Sometimes we'll be joined by special guests. Sometimes it'll just be us chatting with each other about various book topics.
And I think today's topic is, we decided on this one because I think the world's a bit of a dumpster fire. And so when we were thinking about all the things we could talk about, we thought about talking, I think it was me who brought it up. And I said, well, I'd actually like to talk about comfort reads. And then Jane said, well, actually, I don't really read for comfort. And part of me just went, what? I don't understand that at all. So we thought, well, best to have a conversation about it. And what we're doing is putting together lists for, I guess, you know, our combined sense of comfort reads. So we're putting together, the first list is our comfort reads list, which is going to be on our website. So you can see what weird things we might get comfort out of reading. But I thought maybe I think that was it. That was part of the conversation, was just to go, what do we mean by comfort reads? I guess it's sort of like, even I think I know what I feel when I have a comfort read, but I hadn't actually really sort of intellectually figured out what those components were. I mean, do you,
yeah,
what do you
my first thought when you said comfort reads was, oh, I don't need that. That's not a quality I look for in my reading. But then I thought, no, actually, every now and then I pull out a childhood favorite from the shelf, one that holds up. You know, there's always those childhood books that you shouldn't read again because they're going to be dreadful and all your dreams will be shattered. But, you know, certain books like Charlotte's Web, Harriet the Spy, those classics that, you know, every time you read them, you're going to get something out of them. So I do every few years go back and reread those. And I guess that is definitely a comfort read for me, because it's something I can guarantee. I know it's going to be good. It's not too traumatic. It's going to take me places, but I also know where it's going. And that's really comforting to me. And then I started thinking, actually, I do read children's fiction, new children's fiction, for that same reason. And I wish more adults would read children's fiction, because they crack on with it. They don't faff about. They're not into the angst of teen reads yet. You know, we're talking about middle grade kind of, you know, that intermediate age fiction. They often are really emotionally engaging, but ultimately hopeful at the end. That's always, you know, you're not going to be sobbing you might be happy sobbing, but you're not going to be depressed by the end of a children's novel. So I thought, actually, that is the sort of where I would turn for comfort reading, would be picking up a children's novel, a new one or a classic.
Yeah, I think that rereading is, because you know what's going to happen and you've got some sense of what the experience is like, then that is kind of a safe place to go. So safe and comfort are kind of equivalent here. So I mean, I definitely go back to my children's fiction. I remember the first lockdown, I just binged all through my Diana Wynne Jones, all through the Dark is Rising series. I think I picked up like Mary Poppins, you know, which is quite young, but still I know what's going to happen, and I still know it's going to be fun and safe and you know, as you say, happy at the end. I was thinking about, I think for me, like with adult comfort reading, what do I like? And I think it's also what I write. And books that have good, fundamentally good, kind people that are not ethically compromised, that are doing good things, and it kind of ends on a positive, hopeful note, is what I want from my comfort reads. And that can be any genre. It can be, you know, I like funny books, but I like, you know, even like a crime book, which doesn't have a lot of humor in it. Again, like something like Louise Penny's, you know, Inspector Gamache, or Donna Leon, her Venice Set crime books are like, they're just decent people doing a really good job of getting bad people brought to justice. I love that.
Yeah, and that sort of genre read, like a crime novel. I was chatting with my partner about it, and I said, what do you think of as comfort reads? And he said that he's not so much rereading these days, though he's, gone through phases of rereading favorite books. But what he does now is he goes to the series that he loves and he will just read another one in that series, like the Rivers of London series.
Oh, yes.
And it doesn't need to subvert tropes, and it doesn't need to not follow the conventions, and tropes are fine. Sometimes that's just what you want to know that it's going to follow a pattern but be good writing.
Yes, and I mean, like
really
ones like Rivers of London are kind of, they do not exactly subvert the tropes, but they kind of elevate it. It's like why, Terry Pratchett and Discworld is so great and such a great comfort read, because you know where you are with them. You're in such safe hands and familiar company. I think that's the series thing, isn't it? You know these characters by now and you're invested in them. And there's something, I mean, I've just finished watching the season 12 of the Great British Bake Off, and you're totally invested in these people. You love these humans, you want them all to succeed, and that's ridiculous. I don't know them from a bar of soap, but it's the same thing as reading a lovely series about characters that you just really respond to. Yeah,
and that actually one of the top selling books this year in New Zealand is Greta and Veldin, the novel. And that it just hits the spot of what people are looking for, because they want something smart, but where nothing terrible happens and where you might be able to laugh a little bit. And it's strangely not that common to find those books, and it needs to be more common. But the thing I was thinking about Greta and Veldin is that it proves that you don't have to have a bunch of perfect characters to be good characters that you root for. So every single character is a complete mess up. They just absolutely bumble through their lives. Yeah. But you just love them, and you love them because they're surrounded by people who love them and accept them. And gosh, it's so refreshing just to have people not, it's not this great crisis of humanity that they made a mistake, that just everyone's doing it. And it's just so beautiful and warm. And every time, for months after I finished that book, I just felt so happy just thinking about it.
It is really, just, I think that was it. Everybody said to me, oh, you will really love this book. It's totally up your alley. You said that to me. And I was thinking, I feel so old when I read books by young people, and I'm going to feel very uncool. And though I did definitely feel very uncool, they were so lovely, and I responded to the parents' characters, in Greta and Veldin, because they're basically my age. And that thought of what I was saying about, for me, comfort read is about fundamentally good people who are trying to do their best in the world, and the book allows them to do that, allows them to do their best even if they mess up, and they've got support and other people to look after them. So I hate it when people, like when characters are sort of just cut loose to deal with all sorts of awful stuff all on their own, and I just feel so sad for them. And yeah, so Greta and Veldin was definitely, that's a top comfort read.
Yeah, I'm really responding to books that show really supportive friends and family groups at the moment, because I feel like it's not always that common in a book. People make mistakes, but it's just so refreshing to have a group of friends who are really great, or some parents who are really supportive of the mistakes their children are making and that sort of thing. It's a really nice thing to read about.
And it's kind of the zeitgeist, isn't it? I think that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that sense of, like, there are good people out in the world not doing terrible things, not going to war, not eroding fundamental human rights. And and when they sort of exist on the page, part of us knows that they're not real, but we feel that they are, and we feel that there's hope and positivity. It's why I loved so much, like, the Thursday Murder Club, because it was older people in a retirement home who tend to get a bit written off in fiction, and I think they got burned in a Margaret Atwood story, so that was exciting. I know. No, I think she saved some of them, but it was just like, it is just so hopeful and positive that they, these disparate people formed this friend group in that, in that book, and they also, their Thursday Murder Club actually goes and solves actual murders, which is hilarious and wonderful.
Such a good book. We should probably wrap this up, but we've got heaps of other suggestions on our book list, including poetry and memoirs and short stories and a few other little tips to set you off on your comfort read journey. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you again soon.
Thank you. See ya.